I want to start with just adding one more data type. And this is another list or collection or whatever you want to call it. It's another type of single variable that can contain multiple items. And the name is a little strange. I've seen it pronounced with a long U or a short U, so you can say tuples or tuples. If you're into the GIF versus GIF controversy online, then this might be up your alley. I'm just going to call them tuples, mainly because it reminds me of Tupperware. And having grown up in the 70s and 80s, these Tupperware ads have like a nice visual appeal for me. I don't know what it is about those, but Tupperware is kind of a timeless thing. I mean, now you, of course, get disposable Tupperware and things like that, but these used to be like, the prime kitchen collection of things. And it's, used to have Tupperware parties at your house to buy those things. But anyway, I like the term tuple, so I'm going to call it that. So the way a tuple looks is somewhat similar to a regular list or an array. We have a tuple guys or tup guys, and I've got a list of 3 strings here. The main difference between this and a list in terms of its visual appearance is that instead of square brackets, I have parentheses. Some people confuse a tuple with the way parentheses are used in a function or in other places where you might see parentheses. But the main way you can tell that it's a tuple and not an argument being fed to a function is that there's no function name, right? Right here, I've got a variable name equals using the assignment operator, and then the tuple itself. In most ways, a tuple behaves just like a list does or an array in Python. It's indexed, it's ordered, it is, yeah, that's nice, huh?
It's still flashing?
It's been flashing the whole time. It's okay, no problem. So you're going to refer to these items using an index. The big change between this and a list or an array is that a tuple cannot be changed. Okay, once you create a tuple, you can delete it or you can read from it, but you can't add values, you can't delete values, you can't change values. Let me just demonstrate real quick. So I've got this tuple here, and if I want to print the second item in that, I'm going to use an index just like I would with a list, right? And when I run this, it prints out Gary, because that's the second item or the index 1 there. If I want to, though, change one of these, to Dave, you can see it's already highlighting it, telling me, hey, you can't do that. It's not going to work. But if I run it anyway, you can see tuple object does not support item assignment. Can't change it. Also, I cannot delete from this. So if I wanted to delete Gary from my tuple, you'll notice there it's got a little highlight here. And it says tuple object doesn't support item deletion. Now, the reason it's highlighting just this part instead of the whole thing is that I could delete that whole variable. I can delete the whole thing and recreate it, but I can't change anything in it. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same as a regular list or an array. Now, why on earth would they create another data type that's basically the same as an index or an array, go through the trouble of calling it something different, and then not let you change the values? Well, the not being able to change it is kind of the whole point. So you often see tuples used for one of two applications. You might use a tuple to store a whole bunch of what you might call settings for your application. Like if you wanted to save some things, you didn't want to change them later. You knew that they were going to stay the same throughout the use of the application. So a setting, or if I wanted to create a theme using a list of colors, I didn't want those to change. Those are valid uses of a tuple. Another reason that you might use a tuple is if you, let's say, wanted to pass on coordinates as a argument to a function. Let's say you have a function that will using the turtle module, maybe like draw a circle somewhere on the screen. And that function requires you to give it X and Y coordinates. You might give those coordinates to that function as a single argument inside a tuple. So that's another reason. If you have a group of things that go together. When we're defining colors, sometimes we define colors in Python. Instead of using the color name, we use RGB values for red, green, and blue. Sometimes, actually a lot of the time, when we're passing colors into a function that way, we're using a tuple for that also. So those are some valid uses or some common uses for a tuple. In most cases, you could just use a list or an array instead of a tuple, and you'd probably be okay. What a tuple gives you is an assurance that those values are not going to be changed during the runtime of your application. So that's what a tuple is. And I don't believe that many people use tuples in the course of their everyday programming very often. Certainly not so much in the beginning, but you will start to see tuples in the next few weeks as we start to use more advanced modules in Python. So I want you to be familiar with them and know what they are and not be confused when you see them. So that's the main reason I wanted to introduce those today. So if I want to compare these types of lists, this is how they look, right? This first one has curly braces and key and value pairs. What kind of list is this? What type of collection is this? Dictionary, right? Dictionary has key and value. And it's probably called a dictionary because, like a dictionary, it sort of has a term or a word and a definition of that word. It follows a similar pattern to a dictionary. So you're using the keywords to look up the values. The second type here is an array or a list, generic. It's indexed. It can be changed. It can have anything inside it, including other lists. This can also have other lists inside the value here. We'll see that in just a minute. And then, of course, the tuple, which is very similar to the list, but it cannot be changed. Okay.